to my channel and thank you for clicking on. It feels so good to be back. So if you can tell by the title, this is going to be a part 2 to how to pass, how to prepare for your social work interview. If you haven't already, please make sure that you check out part 1 of the video. So the first tip that I have is about trying to see if there's anybody else in the local authority that you know who can vouch for, who can basically vouch for the local authority, who can vouch for their strengths, vouch for some of the things that maybe are off-putting, vouch for some of the ways that they treat their staff, that sort of thing. Knowing someone who's actually working there is the best way that you can understand if a local authority is going to be suited for you. Now, I understand also that not a lot of people have that luxury. I certainly didn't have that luxury when I applied for my local authority, but it's still one way that you can see, if you do know someone who works there, how it's going to be before you go in. One suggestion, if you do not know anybody who works at that local authority, is that maybe you could try LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a platform where employees will put up a profile and kind of state where they work. So if you've searched your local authority and you've seen that there's a social worker who works there, I don't know if there's a harm in maybe contacting them and just getting an account from them regarding the local authority. I mean, that might put you above everybody else if you've got that first-hand information. So another tip, or another thing to do, very obvious, is to prepare. Make sure that you prepare for that interview, because if you haven't, trust me, they'll be able to tell. Make sure that you prepare, make sure that you do your reading, make sure that you do your research, make sure that you are as prepared as you can be for that interview. So another question that you need to ask yourself when you're preparing for your social work interview is, do you meet the criteria that they're looking for? Do you meet the criteria for the social worker within that field, within that local authority? One way that you can see whether you actually match with what they're looking for is by reading the job specification. That is basically the blueprint of what they're looking for. That tells you what skills they want you to need, what requirements you need to have for the job. So make sure that you're looking at the job specification and almost sort of picking out how you meet it. Think about some examples of how you meet it so that you can be prepared for when you go into the interview. So for example, if the requirement is for you to have a car, do you have a car? For example, if the requirement is for you to have a certain level of training, do you have that certain level of training? So yeah, definitely reading and studying that job specification will help for your interview. But also thinking about, if you haven't met the job specification, don't just completely rule yourself out. Think about, okay, I don't meet the job specification, how can I meet that? And how can I show them or tell them within that interview that I can meet the job specification? What can I do? Are you going to be a quick learner? Are you going to be doing any other training on the side? Are you going to be, open to any training that they might offer? Are you prepared to, it's just about making sure that you've considered all avenues really, rather than just saying, well, I don't meet the job specification, so that's it. There's honestly no harm in trying. So another thing that I always, not even just in an interview setting, just in life, is if you don't understand the question, ask for them to reframe it. So there's no harm in saying, okay, I don't particularly understand what you mean. Can you just say that in a different way for me? So for the job that I'm in now, when I interviewed, I thought that I failed that interview. I literally left it thinking, oh my gosh, I did terribly. And the reason why is because there was a particular question that they asked me and it just stopped me in my tracks. I literally just said to them, I'm stumped by that question, I don't understand what you mean. And it was something along the lines of, what threshold tools would you use in this local authority? And I remember at the time thinking, threshold tools? That sounds like a really obvious but ambiguous question. So I was like, I'm stumped, I don't understand what you mean. And they literally reframed the question and I was like, oh yeah, no, I get what you mean. So I was able to answer it and then we were able to move on. And when I spoke to, or when they gave me feedback afterwards, they were said, no, that was fine. We liked the fact that she said she didn't understand or didn't, know what we meant. and we were able to reframe it, and then she answered it the way that it needed to be answered. Because sometimes when we're in those kind of situations and we feel, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on here, or you just panic, your first response is just to blab. It's just to literally say anything and everything, because you don't want to appear like you don't know what you're doing, or you don't want to appear like you're just, you just come off the street and you're trying to interview. So yeah, definitely asking for the question to be reframed is okay. It's not a weakness. If anything, it's a strength, because it means that when you don't understand something, you're willing to say, and you're willing to try. You're not just going to give up. So also answer the questions with experience and examples. Also reframe, again that word, reframe what you have read or what you have studied or what you've researched in your own words. Don't just regurgitate. Don't just regurgitate what you've read, because it's quite obvious that you've just taken something from here and then you've put it into there in the interview, and that you don't get points for originality. So make sure that when you're answering and you're giving your examples, that you're making it personal to you, and you're making it in your own way, so that not only are you telling them that you've done your research, you've absorbed the information, and you're able to articulate it, but also that you spent time on it rather than just doing a copy and paste job. So another thing, it probably sounds quite silly, but understand what you are applying for. And the reason why I say that is because when I applied for my first post-qualifying job, on the advert it said that the job was for referral and assessment, so being referral and assessment for children's services. But then when I started the job, I ended up being in a child in need or / a long-term team. Now they are two completely different things. Referral and assessment is more short-term work. Child in need is obviously more long-term work. So make sure that you actually know what you're applying for. Clarify it if you need to, because again, the last thing that you want is to go into a job and it's basically not what you signed up for. So another thing within your research stage is to try and understand the different jargon that might potentially come up in the interview. Try and anticipate what they're going to ask you. Try and think about some of the terminology that they're going to use. So for example, things like resilience, and again that sounds quite obvious, but things like resilience, emotional intelligence, any different theories that they might be asking you, any different models that they might be asking you, because again, there are certain questions that you just can't wing. You either know the answer or you don't, and I think that's why it goes back again to that reframing question. Ask them to reframe the question if you don't understand it, but equally as well, if you haven't done your research, then no amount of reframing is going to help you answer that question. Something else that I think can seem quite obvious but sometimes gets lost in that interview stage is treating the people who are in front of you like they are non-professionals. Treat them like they are any layman, any person off the street, and you are basically going there and you are speaking about your passion, speaking about your career, speaking about social work and why you are the person for the job. Don't just assume that because they're social workers or they're managers that they're going to know what you're talking about. So when you go in there with the mindset that okay, you are educating them, because again, I think when you go in with that mindset, it definitely helps you to try a bit more, because you want the people to understand, and you're not just saying things that might be obvious to them because you think, well, I don't have to put in as much effort because they know what I'm talking about. No, what they're looking for is for you to put in, is to stand out from the crowd and basically to be educating them and telling them about the knowledge that you've gained leading up to that point. That's what they want to see. So the other thing as well is that if you've done a good personal statement, a wicked personal statement, covering letter, CV, whatever you want to call it, then you're good, because all you have to do within your interview, plus a bit more, is just develop on what you've written in your personal statement. And if your personal statement was one that you've written, then you should know what you're talking about. If you've had help with your personal statement, please make sure that you know what's in there. You can process and understand what's been written in your personal statement for you, because I'm sure a lot of us have had friends or family or other practitioners who've helped us write our personal statement, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, when it comes to developing within the interview, just make sure that you're actually aware of what's been written. And also if they ask you something, or if they reference your statement, then you want to know that, yep, I can answer what's been said. Please make sure that when you are applying for your social work job, or even if you're doing your social work interview for your course, that you are current with the legislation relating to that particular area of social work that you want to go into. So the current legislation. There's no good referencing legislation that is outdated, legislation that changes over the years, and using an outdated year when there's been numerous revisions to that over the years. Making sure that you are with the most current piece of legislation, because again, it shows that you are able to be current, you are able to be in tune with what's happening in society today. Please bring anecdotal examples of your personal, professional, whatever values and ethics. And please also make sure that you are bringing examples from something that's happened in society today, whether that's from a serious case review, whether that's from something that's happened in the news, something that's happened overseas, a new legislation that's come in and the impact or how that's going to benefit the service user that you're going to be working in. Make sure that you are bringing in those examples, because again, that is what they want to see, and those are going to be the extra marks, as it were, that's needed to kind of make you stand out from everybody else who's interviewed and is maybe using their stock examples. Another important thing to think about when you are interviewing, again, either for your social work course or for your social work job, is trying to preempt some of the challenges that may prevent you from being eligible for that job or being able to meet the criteria for that job. So for example, race, age, and I know that in isolation those things definitely should not be impacting on your suitability for a role, because it is very prejudicial and discriminatory. But yeah, try and anticipate some of those challenges. For example, age. I think age is one that comes up a lot. So, you know, make sure that you're going into that interview with that already in your mind, that yeah, I might be young, but actually this is the reasons why I will still be suitable for the job. Or yes, I might be working in a predominantly disadvantaged area and I may have some privilege, however, this is how I feel that I can address those issues, or this is how I can make sure that I can still support those service users and I can still have an understanding, and again, the emotional intelligence to be able to support service users in that from a certain demographic. It's always important to let the employers know that you are going to be open to learning. You're going to be like a sponge, just literally soaking in all the information, all the training that they can offer. You are open to it all, and also that you are coming into it with the ability to challenge. And what I mean by that is not just using a one-size-fits-all approach, or not just using all the teachings that you've had from your social work degree or from wherever, and anticipating that that's going to help you do your job, or entirely help you do your job, should I say, because yes, it's going to help, but that is just the foundation. Everything else that comes with it, everything else that makes you a really competent social worker is, from your experience, from your learning, from research that you read. So make sure that you are sharing with the employers that actually, or the lecturers or whoever it is that's interviewing you, that yeah, you are the person who is able to be open and absorb new information. And also make sure that you're sharing, or you're letting them know that you're open to having healthy discussions, or that you want to have healthy discussions, and that you're not just going to conform to the norm, because
well, where's the fun in that?
So another thing to think about is, do you have an idealistic view of social work? Now, we all want to help people, but that's boring. That's such a boring answer. I came into social work, I'm a social worker because I want to help. Well, we all want to help people. You can help people by being a cashier. You can help people by, I don't know, there's plenty of other jobs where you're able to kind of use that helping skills to make a difference. So the real question is, in social work, how is that relevant to social work, and how is that realistic with the society that we live in, with the challenges that come with working with people, with the challenges that come with the title of being a social worker, and just with the challenges that come with dealing with real human beings. So also, are you versed and are you realistic about social work and the fact that there are going to be challenges? It is not going to be easy. You know, make sure that you're coming into that interview saying, do you know what, I know that social work is going to be difficult, I know that there's going to be some times where I'm feeling stressed, but X, Y and Z is the reason why I still want to do this. I'm in it for the long haul, if you're in it for the long haul, or I want to make a difference with X, Y and Z. So yeah, just make sure that you're going in and you're being realistic about it, because it's not always roses and daisies. So yeah. So that is the end of them. Hopefully guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I've definitely enjoyed making it and speaking to you guys about your interview, because yeah, we definitely need more social workers. I hope you found this video useful. Please if you have any suggestions for videos, leave them down below in the comment section, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel, and follow me on my Instagram page. Thank you, bye.